extra thick!
What's poppin', YouTube? And yes, hopefully, one day, I do actually hope one of you in the comments is actually just going to tell me one time what is actually poppin'. YouTube. Extra Thick Games here, back with you again, back coming at you again, right? And this time we're coming at you with the absolute best deck profile I have put out there to date, right? Alright, so this is a very, very popular deck that's floating around in the current metagame, right? In early November 2018, before we hit the no sooner than November 20th ban list, right? And today, I'm going to go over this deck profile with you, and it is Danger Dark Worlds. That's right. Now, hold your horses, commenters, dislikers. I see you out there just ready to hit that dislike button, and I see you ready to just tear me a new one in the comment section. But hear me out first, okay, guys? I'm not about to tell you that Danger Dark World is the best deck in the format. No. What I'm about to tell you is that this deck profile is Danger Dark World No-Ftk. That's right, my viewers. That's right, Thicc boys. I actually just like to play this game. And you can still play Danger Dark World and on very good boards, and do very well, and play very well, without just playing some first turn win deck that doesn't let your opponent interact with you at all. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't have anything against people who play the Danger Dark World FTK variant. I mean, like, if you're shelling out the money for the 3 Tsuchinokos and the Nessies, and, I mean, I don't think many of them play Bigfoot or Thunderbird. I know they're going down in price anyway. But, no. If you're shelling out that much money, I understand you're going to want to just win all the time. And then I know there's some people out there that just want to get a taste of winning while they know they can, because Lord knows this deck isn't going to be around by the next time the next ban list hits. But, no, this is just a fun deck with the way that the Danger archetype and the Dark World archetype interact, and I wanted this deck to be I won't say as best as it could be, because if it was, it would be the FTK variant. But you know, I want to end on a good board and just say pass turn and see if my opponent can play through it, right? I want that interaction. See, I want to play the game. Again, no offense to anyone who's playing the FTK variant. Hey, if that's your cup of tea, that's your cup of tea. But I'm more of an interaction kind of guy. I want to know that if I win a duel, it's because I just outplayed my opponent, right? Not that I just had a deck that was totally unfair and didn't let them play. No, I want that interaction, and at the end of the day, I want to know that my deck was just better, and that I played better, right? Alright, I'd say that's a bit of enough introduction to what I'm about to show you guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and get right into this deck profile for you. I'm sure none of y'all mind that. I know I ramble too much in these videos. I say that all the time. Never changes. Probably won't ever. But, I've got more views than I ever thought I would, especially in as short a time as the channel's been a thing, so I guess I'm doing something right. Without further ado, double Danger Bigfoot, not triple, right? And the reasoning behind this is, this deck is a go first deck, and the only reason you really want this and another Danger card is because of the level, and if you're just really desperate, because of the attack value. You want to facilitate this for your rank 8 plays, not because it pops a monster. Because if you're going first, that's not going to matter. If you're going first and you don't have a way to go into your rank 8s, and all you do is just have this Bigfoot, it's dead in your hand. You don't want that to happen. You want to see it too much. You want to see this as a trade-in target, and you want to see this as something that facilitates your rank 8 plays. That's why we only play the 2 of them. That is the perfect ratio towards everything else for Danger Bigfoot, much like Danger Thunderbird. Danger Thunderbird, another one, same exact difference as Danger Bigfoot. Level 8 facilitates your rank 8 plays, and good for a trade-in target. And I mean, going second, it does happen. You lose your die roll every now and then. You're gonna go second, and you're gonna want to pop your opponent's boards. That's why Bigfoot's good for the monsters, Thunderbird's good for the back row. It happens like that, but you don't really want to max out on that, because you don't want to always go second in this deck, because more often than not, you're going to end up going first. So you don't want to be using these cards for their effects as the crutch. You want to use them for what they are, not for what they do. It's a shame that for cards with a price tag like this, that's what you're doing, but that's just the shape of the format right now. I know Bigfoot used to be a $40-something card, and it's dropped down because more people are realizing this. The FTK version, I've seen those versions of the deck not play these cards at all. They're great cards, don't get me wrong. It's just you gotta know when and why to use them, right? I think I've made my point about this, so we're just going to continue. The first danger monster that we're going to max out on is, of course, the triple level 7 danger Nessie. It is your searcher of the deck. You absolutely have to max out on this card. That speaks for itself. It's the searcher. It facilitates your Galaxy Tomahawk plays. Danger Nessie is probably the absolute best card in this deck. Moving right along to our silver medal winner, our second prize, triple Danger Sukhino Cho, right? Other than just being absolutely adorable for a card that's a snake, I mean, look at this little chibi, just chunky little snake. This little snake boy. Yeah, he's precious, and I love him. He's absolutely worth investing every cent that I did in getting 3 copies of him. You get a monster on board every single time you activate this snake's effect in your hand. You discard him, guess what? You get him back. You don't discard him, guess what? You get him back. And for a deck that's basically drop a link 4 on board and go from there, you need to make sure that you've got something that's a sure thing, and Tsuchinoko is your sure thing in this deck. Moving right along, of course, we're going to have the triple danger Jackalope, another level 3. He's not the searcher. He's not automatically going to get you something every single time. It's a good toss-up, though, right? Because one way or the other, no matter what, you're either getting the Jackalope on board in a card, or if the other effect goes off, you're gonna just be able to pick whichever danger monster you want, and from your deck, right? From your deck, which is going to be a much bigger variety than it's going to be in your hand. So you're basically choosing which monsters you're going to have on your field. So you're either getting Link fodder with Jackalope himself, or you're getting Xyz fodder with whichever, either the level 8s or the level 7s. Hey, maybe even the level 4s. We'll get to that here in a second. From whichever you decide, you get to special summon from the deck with the other effect. On that kind of topic, we're still maxing out on Danger Chupacabra here, and I mean, other than just being more danger names, more monsters in the deck, you're still, it's an archetypal monster reborn kind of monster, right? And you're not always going to get the favorable outcome with the danger effects. So that's why Chupacabra is a good one, just to be able to be like, okay, so you gambled with a certain monster that you kind of needed on board when your hand was looking a little thin and you lost. Well, Chupacabra here is going to fix that for you. He's going to get the card that you lost on board for your Xyz fodder. We use a lot of Xyz fodder here in this deck. But anything that kind of gets you another either Xyz fodder or Link fodder on board is always going to be welcome in the Danger Dark World deck, at least in my book. Moving right along, we've got Double Danger Mothman, right? Danger Mothman. One of the very first videos I made on this channel was about how we are sleeping on this card, on Danger Mothman. I was saying something along the lines of how this would be 6 copies of Dark World Dealings. And yet, I'm only playing 2 of this card, and spoilers, I'm not playing a single copy of Dark World Dealings, right? Not even in the side deck. I guess that's a matter of perspective that I was yet to gain by putting this deck together. As back when I made that video, Lord knows, I hadn't even considered throwing this one together. I was still convinced I was going to throw Thunder Dragons together. That didn't happen. I threw Danger Dark Worlds together. Still, I think the Mothman is a little bit better of an idea than going ahead and playing the Dark World Dealings, because not only is it more invulnerable to things like anti-spell fragrance or things of that nature, things that just shut down spell cards, but even if you don't get its kind of discard draw effect off, it's another body on board. This deck does nothing. Well, it does a whole lot of things, but the thing that it does best is just drop bodies on board. And you want as many of these things to happen as possible. Danger Mothman facilitates this. All of these cards that I'm showing you, they, for their danger effect, are... For their unique effect, you want them for their stats or otherwise, because their unique effects are just that worth it for any variant of the deck that you decide to play. So, the last danger monsters we're going to put in the deck are Double Dogman. And Dogman's unique effect is garbage. You are not going to use that once. I've seen profiles where it says, like, oh, if you're having a hard time swinging over things, you'll use Dogman's effect. No, with what you've got in your extra deck, that is never going to be an issue. You are never going to run into that situation, not even once. You use Dogman for not only another danger effect to play the danger game, reveal it, and then just discard something from your hand, but you're using it for its level 7, right? You're using it for its level, and it's going to get you to your Galaxy Tomahawk just that much quicker. And if you get Galaxy Tomahawk off, you've won the game. Like, you've got that many tokens on board, and your options are just endless from there. When you've got 5 level 7s on board, and you go through the deck as quickly as you do, maybe you don't get to your Galaxy Tomahawk every single time, and maybe it's not even the most optimal play every single turn 1, but it certainly is an option, and it certainly is an option that will show up more often than not. Anywho, that wraps up the danger engine of the deck, so we're going to move on to our Dark World cards, and we're going to play the Triple Grapha. Not only is it the the level 8 trade-in target that you really don't mind using your trade-ins on, because you kind of want this card in the deck. Not in the deck, but in the graveyard. You want this card in the graveyard. You discard it, you draw 2 off trade-in, and when it's discarded... maybe that's discarded off a cost. Regardless, you discard this card, you plus off of it. If you discard it for other reasons, you pop something. It's incredible. But it recycles itself. That's the point. It recycles itself. That's the whole point of the Danger Dark World FTK, right? You loop this with any other kind of Dark World monster. Most people use Snow, and then you use Firewall Dragon and Cannon Soldier. but it's still a wonderful, phenomenal card without the use of the Cannon Soldier, right? It's got a decent body, it pops things, it recycles itself, and it's a trade-in target. There's no reason not to max out on this card in your deck. There really just isn't. I've seen decks that play 1 of this card. I've seen decks that play 2 of this card. I see no reason not to max out on it one bit. It's very, very, very rarely ever dead in your hand. And I can't say the same for the level 8 danger cards, but for Grapha, just a fact, like, this card never ends up dead in your hand. I think I've made my point on that, so I'm just going to move right along to the Triple Snow. Level 4, I mean, it gets you to your Yarland than your Azathoth quicker, but namely, we know why we're going to play the level 4s in this deck as far as the Dark Worlds are concerned. Man, we got to get to the Azathoth, and then Snow is going to search out your Grapha sooner rather than later. You want to get to your Grapha first. You want to at least run 1 Grapha around, 1 to utilize. If you find 2 with all your searching and your drawing, that's fantastic. Use 1 for a trade-in target. That can't do anything but help you out. But you got to search 1 because you got to end up with that sooner rather than later. You really just do. Next, we got the Double Brow, the Huntsman of Dark World. Extra draw power, really. You could play more of a rank 3 engine in your extra deck than I do, but because I really don't, because I prefer Link spamming and rank 8 spamming, I use the Brow for its draw power more than anything, and because it's a discard monster effect more than a spell card, it's harder to shut down. It really is. I mean, there's just that's all there really is to that. And then moving right along, we got our double beige, the Vanguard of Dark World. Level 4 special summons itself whenever it's discarded. Like, it's an easy one. You could cut this down to 1 if you wanted. I use 2. It gets me into Azathoth quicker as means to prevent my opponent from doing much against me. You gotta run at least 1, but I find 2 to be the perfect amount for me. But that does wrap up our monster count from the deck. I believe there should be 30 monsters in this deck. So on to the spells. We got the 1 Soul Charge. I will literally never not advise running Soul Charge in these decks. I know I had it in Dark Lords, and I know I had it in Cyber Dragons. In here it is again. Soul Charge wins games. If you play this turn 1, you've got game on board. If you got this turn 2, you lose your battle phase. Big deal. You're putting negates on board. You're putting just unbeatable monsters on board. Soul Charge, you gotta play it. You really just do. And then we're gonna go ahead and go with the triple drag down into the grave. 1, you're gaining knowledge into your opponent's hand. That's worth playing 3 copies of the card, no matter what the pluses that it gets you. But not only are you getting their knowledge about what they're running, you're ripping whatever you don't want them to be playing. You're taking that just out of their hand. And sure, they're getting 1 more card that you might not know about, but they have to discard something from your hand. Everything in the deck, everything that they could possibly discard will benefit you somehow. So there is no drawbacks to drag down into the grave whatsoever. There is absolutely no reason not to max out on this card. Triple drag down into the grave, you have to play it like that. Moving right along, double trade-in. I know a lot of people play triple trade-in, but because I don't max out on the Bigfoot, the Thunderbird, or anything like that, we're only gonna play the 2. The only level 8 that we do max out on is the Grapha, but let's be real, you're not going to see the trade-in and the Grapha in the same hand every single time. If you don't get your level 8s with the trade-in, this card is a brick. You don't want to see it all the time, you just want to see it often enough. 2 is the perfect ratio for this card. Moving right along, the 1 card destruction, because Konami unbanned this. for this deck. They really just had to. You resolve this and you're just gonna plus unbelievably. It's perfect. There's not a whole lot for me to explain, because it's self-explanatory. It really is. You ruin what your opponent had planned by just taking their entire hand away from them, making them reassess the situation, while not only you're getting fresh cards, but whatever you discarded, you're benefiting off of every single one of them. Perfect card. You resolve this, you win, hands down. It's just going to happen that way. And to round up the spells, we're going to play double Twin Twisters, namely for the discard. Not for, don't get me wrong, discarding up to 2 spell and trap cards, the back row, that's wonderful. But, again, this is a go first deck sort of deal, right? So, if you draw into this, it's still playable. It's not a break by any means. You can always just discard one of your danger cards and then use its own effect to pop its own face-up self. That's something you can do. So really what you're getting is a free discard rather than popping your opponent's back row. It's still worth it. It's just versatile in that way. But of course, because of the fact that you want to play, the fact that you want to play going first, you're not going to max out on this because you'd rather see your combo pieces than something that just kind of extends things. It's a free danger discard. You don't want to use this to discard a Dark World card because that'll be a cost, not an effect, and you won't plus the way you would, right? But then, on those instances that you do go second, you can get that effect off of a danger discard and then just ruin whatever your opponent had planned for you. So Twin Twisters, it's a good ratio to have just 2 of them. And then last but not least, we have the 1-trap Skill Drain. Skill Drain's incredible. All the effects activate in the graveyard or when discarded. Nothing's really activating on the field except for your extra deck monsters, which, use your Twin Twister to destroy this when you start getting into that sort of deal. But it's going to hurt your opponent a whole lot more than it's going to hurt you. Skill Drain at 1, utilize it. It was basically made for the Dark World deck, and then when Dangers made that deck meta, it brought Skill Drain back into relevance. That wraps up our 40-card main deck. Let's get right into the side deck, alright? Alright, now for the side deck, aka either the cards that were too slow to justify running in the main deck or the Altergeist hate cards. Alright, let's just go ahead and get right into it. First and foremost, Morphing Jar. It speaks for itself. It pluses you ridiculously. You could run through your entire hand and then plus like 4 or 5 just flipping this card up. Sure, it's a flip effect, so it's a touch bit slower, but plussing that much while interrupting your opponent's plans and kind of ruining what they already had in mind, that's just worth it. It's a little slow to run in the main deck, but you can't just not consider a card that can plus you just that ridiculously much. You gotta run the 1 Morphing Jar, and Konami unbanned it, I'm sure, just for this deck alone, so I'm not gonna disrespect the company that made the game that I love this much. We're gonna go ahead and use what they gave back to us. 1 Morphing Jar to start us out with. Then we've got the double Into the Void. You gotta have at least 3 cards in your hand, and then you get to just draw a card. It's a 1-for-1 with a condition, but then it's got a severe drawback that you gotta discard your entire hand, right? Well, guess what? That's not a drawback for this deck. You discard your entire hand, you start plussing if those cards are danger cards. Double Into the Void. It pluses you. It's a touch slow because you're not able to go into your Link or Xyz plays at the end of your turn, but you at least get to benefit off of the effects of your danger monsters that you do end up discarding off of Into the Void's effect. Then you got the 1... You've got the 1 beginning of the end. It is so hard to make out the artwork of this picture. It kind of just looks like a blank card if you don't look at it in and the right lighting, but we've got the ultra rare version of this card. And it really isn't hard to get 7 dark monsters in the graveyard. It really isn't that difficult to, but I mean, it's just my luck that I draw this thing in my opening 5 cards, and it just limits my combo potential that much. It's entirely too good of a card in this deck to pass up using at all, but a little too slow and a little too situational to use in the main deck. Throw it in the side deck by all means. There are situations when you are going to want this card, so throw it in the side deck. There's no reason not to. Then the next god knows how many cards are Altergeist hate cards. They really are. Double evenly matched. Well, that's just about hate card for any deck ever. But double evenly matched. Triple red reboot because they're going to play trap cards that are going to upset you, and if you've got something face down, they're going to see it coming and be able to react to it. Keep it in your hand, pay the life points, it's worth it. And then, last but not least, if you don't draw any of these other cards, the best card you can draw to just get rid of your Altergeist matchup is your Royal Decree. Just shut them out entirely. No trap cards whatsoever, right? Royal Decree wins you my most frustrating matchup. I'm not saying this is the most optimal side deck ever. This is just what I'm running because of what I have the most problems with whenever I play at locals or anywhere else. Altergeist is my biggest problem. Any other deck that I play can really handle just about anything that I can see coming. I mean, that Metaphys deck from way back when did pull a fast one on me because I didn't know what I was running myself into. We're not running the Chaos Hunter because, I mean, in this deck there's really just not a reason to. But Altergeist is going to be a much more popular deck and much harder to deal with if you aren't prepared for it. This is how you prepared for it. You side for it. That is how you do this. That is how you do this. The next 2 trap cards are going to be the Dangerzone cards. It's Graceful Charity, but as an archetypal card and a trap card, right? You can't just turn up your nose at the opportunity to play multiple Graceful Charities. You just have to do it. And last but not least, our last side deck card is going to be an extra deck monster. It's going to be the rank 4 Abyss Dweller, and it's going to be because you want to shut down graveyard plays. You really just do. You can consider swapping this out and maybe something else for a Ghost Bell, but having a body on board to me just seems more effective than having like a one-time use hand trap negate. I love just having the body on board that's kind of continuous for a whole turn. But that's just me. This has been my side deck. We're going to go ahead and get on to the extra deck. Last but not least, Thicc boys, we've got the extra deck, and we are going to start that off with the infamous Firewall Dragon. That's right, we are still playing it, right? We're not using it to facilitate an FTK by any means, but Konami hasn't banned it just yet, so it would be stupid not to use the best card in the entire format in a deck that is a variant of the best deck in the entire format. You can still just use it to just recycle your materials and facilitate your plays in this deck. You gotta play it. There's no reason not to. You gotta play Firewall Dragon in any kind of danger variant. I don't care if it's Dark World, Burning Abyss, whatever. You've got to play Firewall Dragon. Next, we're gonna play a couple of the Boral boys. We're gonna play Borreload and Boral Sword. That's right, we did find a deck that we could use Boral Sword Dragon, and I am ecstatic about that fact. I mean, both of these cards are self-explanatory. You're going to use Borreload to steal your opponent's problematic monster. You're going to use Boral Sword Dragon to push for game. Both of them are incredible at what they do. Moving right along, our next Link 4 is going to be Gumblar Dragon, Topologic Gumblar Dragon. Its effect to make you and your opponent discard stuff, it's going to plus for you. It is going to be detrimental for your opponent. Play this while you can. This very well might be another card that ends up getting banned. I don't know. But we've got it now. We're going to utilize it. The extra link effect might not come up as often unless you're just playing a whole lot more nightmare cards than I am, but I use it for the discard effect because it pluses for you, it minuses for your opponent, and it's just too good to pass up on that kind of body with those kind of link markers. Our last link 4 is going to be the Saryuja Skull Dread. It's a great card, it really is. I know not a whole lot of people are playing this card in the format right now, but it's not hard to get 4 different monsters with different names on board in this deck, and that last effect of just getting to draw 4 and pick which cards you want in your hand is entirely too good to pass up. And then when you get that effect, you know you already have the special one from hand. So if you've used your normal summon and if you've exhausted all your danger cards and all you have are Dark World cards, so you're just going to be able to extend you just a little bit more. There is no reason not to play Saryuja in a deck that just works so well with these link 4 cards. Moving on to our 1 link 3, we've got the Tri-Gate Wizard. We've got to have the Tri-Gate Wizard, right? It's a wonderful card that ends up just extending your linkable plays and giving you a negate on board. Tri-Gate Wizard, self-explanatory. Our Nightmare Engine, we've got the 1 Phoenix, we've got the 1 Cerberus. I guess depending on which extra monster zone you decide to go with, and also which, if you go in second, which kind of card you need popped. You need your back row popped, you need your monsters popped. That's going to be dependent on which one you decide to pick, right? Moving right along, since every card that you're going to be using, every monster card you're going to be using in the deck is dark, we're going to play the 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice. You open yourself up 2 extra monster zones. You're going to use this when you're namely going to be focusing on your Xyz plays more than your links, and then if something happens to it, you get the Dark Monster Search. It's a wonderful card. You get a search, you get more attack for your already enormous bodies, and you're opening up 4 Xyz plays. Rounding out our link plays, we're going to play the 1 Underclock Taker. You want the 1 card that you start off with for your links, other than Wee Witch's Apprentice. You want something that points down, right? And then it's good for going second. It really is. Take the opponent's 1 problematic monster, decrease its attack tremendously, and then if you have Borrow Sword underneath it, then you're pushing for game right there. Underclock Taker it's still good in the format. It really just is. There's no reason for people not to be playing it. I know not a whole lot of people do because extra deck space is tight, but if you're pushing for OTKs like this deck can, just go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it, alright? Then we play 5 Xyz monsters. 5 Xyz monsters, 2 rank 8s being the Hope Harbinger Dragon and the Lancelot Dark Knight of the Underworld. We got the Hope Harbinger Dragon, right? It's going to be a negate. It's going to suck up back row and just be a wall for attacks. Everything's got to point at it first. And 3K is still nothing to sneer about, even in 2018. It's really not. And then Lancelot, while 2000 is not a great body on board, you've still got a negate in its effect, and then in the late game, you can still push for game with that direct attack. That comes in handy. That has come in handy for me several times. People have used Soul Charge and lost their battle phase, and then just not plan for something that can attack through whatever just massive board that they made. This one can push for game real sneakily. Gotta play the 1, right? Then the 1 rank 7 is going to, of course, be Galaxy Tomahawk. Bunch of tokens, link fodder, self-explanatory. Play this while it's still legal. And then rounding up the Xyz monsters, we've got Outer Entity Nyarla and then Outer Entity Thought Patrol. You gotta play Nyarla, and Nyarla's good not only because it leads you into Thought Patrol, but you can discard with that card's effect, and then your Pleasant Off Danger monster's effects. And then Thought Patrol, of course, chances are you're going to want to be going into that as soon as possible, just to make sure that you don't get hit by any hand traps or anything. But people overlook Nyarla about just as much as people overlooked Cyber Dragon Nova, as far as just using it as a material for Infinity. People overlook Nyarla as much as a material for Thought Patrol, like that sort of thing. You can still plus off that card's effect, but that is 15 cards for the extra deck. And my thick boys, this has been the best deck profile as up to date in the November 2018 format that Extra Thick Games has put on the channel thus far. What do you guys think? Do you guys like the FTK variant better? Do you guys like the what kind of danger variant do you guys like the best? Be sure to go ahead and let me know in the comments, right? And then and then if you made it this far in the video, why don't you made it this far, right? Just go ahead, leave me a like, and subscribe, right? You can only be helping me make more content, and then use that kind of influence to make better content for people who want to make it to the end of these videos as well, right? But really, just go ahead and stay thick. At the end of the night, that's really, really all I or anyone else really could ever care about. Just stay thick. Really, please, can you do that for me? Thank you.
Extra thick!